Okay. All right. So, hi, I'm Jo Mulgrew, and I'm the Group Operations Director here at HBXL. And I'm here talking today to Richard Percival, who is the Senior Sales and Design Engineer at Comera Energy. And they supply solar panels, amongst other eco products, to builders and commercial projects all across the UK. That includes, as I said, solar panels and things like car charging points and that kind of thing. So we're really pleased to have Comera Energy here today on the video, and also welcoming them as one of HBXL's trusted partners to our network. Today is the first of one of our chats where we're broadcasting about the difficulties facing the industry as a result of the coronavirus, and we've got some suggestions today and over the next few weeks to help builders through lockdown and thrive as we come out the other side. So welcome again, Richard. Thanks,
Jo. I mean, it's great to be able to talk about solar. Obviously, it's a difficult time for the economy. I think what we saw before we went into lockdown was there was a lot of interest in climate. It really pushed up the political agenda. We were busier than ever in March. We've seen actually an increase in lockdown. A lot of people are working from home, very interested in solar. We'll get onto that later. But yeah, great time to be talking about, making sort of eco improvements to your home. We deal a lot with businesses as well. But here I think we're talking about primarily homeowners who are looking to maybe add value, improve the efficiency of their home, and make some positive contribution.
Yeah. So I guess from the HBXL side, we're talking directly to builders each and every day. That's who we support through both our software and our partner services. And we know it's really competitive running a building firm, even at the best of times. There's lots of builders that operate in the same kind of stomping ground. And I guess as we move forwards post the COVID-19 crisis, I'm thinking that there's got to be ways that builders can kind of differentiate themselves and set themselves apart from the competitors in their area. Perhaps add other services to what they do, or move up market and perhaps charge more. Our thoughts at HBXL is that solar panels has got to be one of those services. As you've already said, climate change has been on the agenda for the last few months very highly. I would say, and I guess it allows the builder to enhance their own eco credentials, their green credentials. And many homeowners perhaps are starting to think about who they choose to run their building projects based on how green the company is, and also obviously the products that they can offer, which are kind of fulfill that need, such as solar. And I know where I live in a village. There's solar panels on all the farmhouses and and small barns, even the terrace properties around here have got them. So I know I'm jabbing on, and I'm keen to hear from you, Richard.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
One more thing before I do. I wanted to kind of just address this myth of perhaps builders thinking, I can't install solar panels. I don't want the time and expense of doing that. But today I want to explain that perhaps it doesn't need to, that there doesn't need to be that kind of that fear or the effort involved. By working with Comera Energy, all the builder is doing is recommending them to you, to your...
I think they're using their contact. I think the relationship with the client is really important. Understanding what the end user wants, what's motivating them, why are they interested in solar, and being able to help us to be able to suggest, design a system that will meet their needs, not just now, but going forward. They may in the future get an electric car. They may really be looking at, maybe working from home. They may need a slightly bigger system than they would have gone for originally. We'll get onto that as well. But I think it's a great time to be talking about solar, where people are in their homes. They're starting to use a lot more electricity than they were. And I think it's a great opportunity to work with builders to provide a full design, supply, installation and commissioning service to them that can help them sort of, as you say, up their game without necessarily having to learn lots and lots of new skills.
Okay, so I guess we'll talk again in a few minutes about kind of the general process. But what we're really saying is that the builder working with an existing client, say he's got, I don't know, an extension that he's going to be putting up, or he's doing a barn conversion or something, and he can see an opportunity there for solar. The client may be interested, they might have suggested their own interest in it, or the builder himself might spot this as an opportunity. It doesn't have to be served up on a plate. They can think, well, do you know what, this looks like a potential project. From that level of interest, they then pass that to you, to Comera Energy, and you deal with the whole process. So
so ordinarily we work both with residential clients, with commercial clients. So we have a long history of working with commercial building contractors, right from the very largest to very small companies, and maybe even some one-man bands as well. And so we're used to working with business to business. We're used to trying to provide sort of design support, working with architects, working with design consultants, taking AutoCAD files and basically working to understand what do they want to achieve on that roof, helping them get that past the planning process, just advising at all stages of the process. So we're not just at the end doing the installation, we're right from the start where they're saying, what can we do, what can we achieve with this particular roof? And so we chat through in a consultative way and hopefully then, get a design together, cost that, and then work forward from that. But obviously with the HBXL Solar Bonus Pack, what they can do is get some indicative prices at the start to initiate those conversations before having more detailed conversations directly with Comera Energy.
Okay, so for those that have already got Estimator Express, the HBXL estimating software, we launched back at the start of, was it the start of April or the end of March?
Seems like a long time ago.
Does seem like a very long time ago with the whole lockdown process. I'll be dating this video by mentioning lockdown, because hopefully, it's sometime in the future this will be a distant memory, although I fear not. But the Estimator Express bonus pack, just for those that don't know, so that is an add-on to the core Estimator Express software, and it allows the software user, so whether you're a builder or a designer producing estimates, you can select one of the Comera Energy systems within the software, and that will then appear within the customer quotation as an indicative price with the firm's margin added onto that. So they can either embed that within the main quote, or it can be as an add-on, as a kind of a serving suggestion with your extension or with your barn conversion. You could also consider the solar system. So it enables the builder, I guess, to promote the solar solution as a proposal, even if the homeowner, the client, has not yet indicated a desire for it, which is really good, I think, because it kind of puts it out there as a potential.
I think also, Jo, I think it gives the builder the opportunity to retain the control of the customer relationship. Clearly, that's very valuable. They want to work with us. We can obviously try and support the end user, but really it's the building contractor will be very keen to retain that control of the relationship. They can add their margin on. So I think that there's a real opportunity for them not to lose it to another contractor. They're retaining control of that relationship. They know the customer better than anyone, and so that gives us an opportunity to be able to deliver to them and to their end user exactly what they want.
So just kind of on that note then, so if the homeowner or the client has got some specific queries about the solar system that the builder has perhaps put on the quote using the tools, or maybe he's not used the tools, maybe he's just got in mind a project that that may be suitable for this. If there are queries, can the building firm owner or the designer kind of get in touch with you, or put you in touch with the homeowner, so you can have a kind of a chat about what might be the best system? Because I'm kind of conscious that some of the builder kind of viewers might be thinking, well, I really don't know very much about solar. That's kind of outside of my comfort zone. So I guess we wouldn't want to put people off by saying, no, we don't talk to the homeowner. So tell me about how does that work?
I think it's a balance, Jo. I think the the reality is that what we would like to be able to do in an ideal world is upskill the building contractor to be able to spot opportunities, to be able to assess the roofs for feasibility for the best roofs available. And over time, ultimately building contractors are dealing with complex things on a day-to-day basis, and solar is no more complex than that. It's just different. I think in the short term, clearly some homeowners have very specific questions. Homeowners are very well skilled up in understanding some of these things, but they may work in the particular industry, they may be in academia, they may be doing what I do, so that they may well have an advanced knowledge. But what we're trying to do is upskill the builder to be able to spot the opportunities and answer them. We're happy both to support the builder, but also to support the homeowner if they've got specific questions around, data consumption or specific connections in and that sort of thing. So we're happy to do both. I think ultimately, we would like to be able to support the building contractor to be able to.
There's more of a longer term relationship then with the building.
I think so. That's what works well for us at the moment is clients who understand the sort of information that we need to be able to be put in the best position to be able to respond and put a design and costed proposal together. And over time, that kind of consultative approach, people will come to us and say, okay, I think I've got an opportunity. This is what I think. These are the things I'm not sure about. What do you need to be able to progress this further? And we can say, that's great. I think if we could get maybe a CAD file, if we could get maybe a couple of photos of the roof, we can just assess the feasibility of being able to progress this design. Okay.
All right. So I guess how we got down this particular rabbit hole was talking about kind of the timeliness of the climate agenda. But one thing that I've been reading about, and no doubt you're hearing about, is obviously with the kind of COVID-19 crisis. I don't want to use that word because it makes it sound like the world is ending, but with the lockdown and people working from home more, and I guess office workers, perhaps they're not going to want to go back to work in the longer term into the office environment where people are all crammed in and what have you, and they're going to want to hang on to working from home as long as possible. But more than that, I guess there is this new normal, isn't there, that people keep talking about now I'm used to working at home. I like this. I avoid the commute. I've got a cup of tea in the other room. I can walk the dog at lunchtime, etc. So I guess people working at home are going to be using more and more electricity at home in the daytime.
I think there's lots of ways to look at that working from home. I think, as you rightly say, there are benefits definitely for the individual, opportunities for business, looking at how can people be the most productive, fixed costs of businesses, commuting costs, attracting good staff who maybe want to work from home. So there's lots of opportunities. But one of the things that emerges, as you rightly say, is when you're at home during the day, you use more electricity. You've got the lights, you've got the broadband, you've got different appliances on during the day, and that will consume more electricity. But the good news with solar is the sun shines during the day. So the greatest way to make the most of a solar system is to be able to use what you produce. Those are the savings to be made. Is that what you don't want to be doing is producing lots in the day and then using lots in the evening. If you're using stuff during the day, such as your washing machine and those sorts of things, your dishwasher, then you have an opportunity to use more of the electricity that you're producing. The payback period on those systems will then improve because you're not purchasing electricity at 15 to 20 pence per kilowatt hour. So I think people will start to understand maybe that solar is a better fit for their particular situation than if, for example, they were commuters who were only at home in the evenings and the weekends. Traditionally, solar has worked very well for people with young families at home who have high energy use, and retirees as well, people who are at home during the day and have an opportunity to adjust their behaviour to use more sort of behavioural change during the day when the system is producing. This will apply to more and more people as more and more people, certainly in the short to medium term, are working during the working day from their primary residence.
So on that, could you perhaps fill us in, Richard, on what was the feed-in tariff and how it works in terms of, the kind of, I guess the payback is in two parts, isn't it? That there's one, you're saving on electricity purchase, as you're saying, that's 15, 20p. What was the unit again?
The feed-in tariff essentially is a government subsidy. It was designed to sort of help the uptake of solar, and there are very strong opinions on different sides. What we have seen is prices have come down over the past 10 years, and And over that period of time, the subsidy started to reduce. It was stopped at the end of March 2019. And so now, what your opportunities so in the past, you were paid to generate electricity, but you were also paid what was called an export tariff. So you were paid to export it back to the grid. So your utility supplier, whoever that might be, one of the big six or one of the smaller emerging companies, they would pay you on a quarterly basis for how much you produced and how much you exported. Now, of course, that's gone. Prices have come down a lot, and so the idea is that that's then competitive. It's a difficult balance, and some will have views that it should stay. What is starting to emerge is what's called an export tariff with some of these big companies who will pay you based on what you export. So that's at 5.5 pence per kilowatt hour. But when you think that they're charging 15 to 20 pence for every unit that you purchase, your greatest opportunity for saving is not to purchase from them, but to use what you produce in your home.
Okay,
so
well,
that's the greatest opportunity.
So that leads me to another question then, I guess. So in my household, because I have the kettle on a lot, and the dishwasher, and I have young kids, so the washing machine's on lots. So I guess this probably wouldn't apply to me because I think I'll be using all the electricity that I generated from my solar panels. But there are going to be some people that perhaps don't use all of the electricity generated in the daytime hours. Are there opportunities to kind of attach batteries to this system to kind of capture that excess electricity? And perhaps you can think about that.
That's an interesting question. So exporting it, you're going to get your 5.5 pence per kilowatt hour. What some people might consider is a battery that would be able to capture excess electricity during the day. That would then be available in the evening and in the morning before the sun came up. Making that financially attractive is a balance, and you'd want to make sure that you size the battery for the size of system that you've got and what you're consuming. So if, for example, as you say, let's say you've got a very small solar PV system, but you've got big consumption, maybe we'd work through and say, maybe you don't need a battery. But there are other people who have much lower consumption. They've got maybe one person living at home, maybe they're not there during the day, and they want to make the most of the electricity that they purchase. And it may well be that there's a sort of a cost neutral option that's available to them to be able to capture that during the day and use that during the evening. There are obviously some very well-known brands that are available. The Tesla Powerwall is one that many people will have heard of. It's a very big battery, and for many people, you might argue that it's a bit too big for a standard UK home. But it's well worth having a conversation with us if you think that you'd like to get a battery. A lot of people, certainly those that are sort of early adopters, very keen on tech, maybe they really want a system that reduces their reliance on the grid. They may well be interested in going for an electric car charger. They may well be interested in a battery system. So we can really recommend products that work very well together and actually give them what they want, both on a financial perspective, an energy perspective, but also on a tech perspective as well. Sometimes you buy things for your home that your fridge freezer doesn't necessarily chill your food any better, but it's maybe an aesthetically pleasing item that goes into your house, as are big computer monitors or snazzy laptops.
Yeah. I was interested to hear you say then about the car charging points and kind of integrating them within the system. So I guess for builders perhaps working on slightly bigger projects, maybe new builds and so on, I should mention planning in here. Perhaps in certain areas, certain things like solar and electric car charging points, bike racks, all of those things are going to be part of the planning permission kind of process, and approval.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're happy to support that. Very often they'll ask for some basic information about how, for example, with the solar panels, how far do they sit off the roof? And you generally find that as long as they're below, the top of the panel is below 200 millimeters from the roof, you generally don't get a problem. Sometimes people want to make sure what the aesthetics are. Sometimes they'll ask for all black panels. If you're in an area that has, for example, Welsh slate, you wouldn't necessarily want to be putting a silver panel on there. You may well want an in-roof system. You may well want panels that are all black to get past those planning restrictions. But we're very used to doing that. We can provide the technical information as a data sheet. We can answer the questions from the manufacturers, got very good relationships. Sometimes they'll want to know, what do the clamps look like? What's the aesthetic of them? But in terms of the car charging points, I mean, that's a good question in the sense that I think there will be a big uptake in electric vehicles. I think that if you're interested in a solar PV system, how about having the option to add that on pretty easily? Maybe do it at the same time before you've got an electric car. So then you're ready to go. And there are systems that work very well with the grid, with solar, so that you can be putting your excess capacity into your car. The other thing that you could potentially consider about is houses that have a hot water tank. You could put excess capacity from your system through an immersion heater into your hot water tank. So in the months from about March through to October, you should be getting a decent amount of hot water for free. And that's a very cost-effective way of essentially having a wet battery. That hot water tank is a store, and so you can be, without having to have the additional expense of a battery, you can be utilising the excess production from your system when you're not using it for your hot water.
Well, that would certainly be, again, useful in a household with small children who take huge showers and baths and things.
Yeah,
I shouldn't say
I think
that.
it just feels like you're having a system that works both in terms of the electricity, but also in terms of the hot water. People will often ask is it worth going for solar thermal? That's a technology that it's still available. It's probably quite costly to have a solar thermal and a solar PV system. So why not think about just having a solar PV system and being able to put the excess capacity into a hot water tank through an immersion controller? It's not a massive extra expense on top of your solar PV system, and gives you what you want, which is the electricity and the hot water. So if people are interested in that, by all means, have that conversation.
So again, I mean, it's starting to sound a bit more complex from my side. So you guys presumably help kind of design this in. If the builder or the designer is capturing that level of interest, what are they trying to achieve? Then you can put that and design that system.
I think what we try to ask the client is, what does the customer want? So we don't start by saying how many panels do they want. We start by saying, what are they looking to do? What's their interest? Is it from the perspective that they want to try and make money, save money? Are they concerned about the sort of eco credentials of the home? Are they looking at the marketability of the home in 5-10 years time, when people might well expect to have some sort of eco features in their house? And so we'll try and drill down, and at certain points we'll suggest, have they thought about electric vehicle charges? Do they have a hot water tank? And from that you can sort of evolve a design before we then get to the perspective of saying, okay, if you've got AutoCAD drawings of the roof for us to be able to design around things like the Velux windows, and what's the roof covering, what's the pitch of the roof, what's the cable routes, all of those sorts of things. That is the nitty gritty of a building contractor. The most important thing is to stand back and say, what does the customer actually want?
Yeah. Okay. So,
or what's driving the customer?
Yes. So from my understanding, there's kind of a different kind of range of systems. So you're kind of starting at your kind of like your budget end, and you're going right up to kind of the high end systems. And I hear what you're saying earlier about some people just want top of the range something, whatever it is. And I guess on bigger projects, big new builds, self builds, etc. That might be quite high on the agenda for the homeowner, wanting the best of things. But tell me a little bit about the kind of the variance between the kind of the systems, especially for an Estimator Express software user who's got the solar panel bonus pack. They're going to see a range of systems within the software. So yeah, what happens in terms of where's a budget product? And how does it compare to...
I think it's a good question, because I mean, a panel to an outsider looks like a panel.
Yeah,
and I think
it does.
No, it does, and that's fine. And I think we wouldn't promote or push any one of those options. We were trying to understand what they wanted. So I think one thing to bear in mind is that even a budget panel is manufactured according to tier 1 manufacturing standards. That means the right supply chain standards, the right waste management processes, the right quality control processes, the right labour conditions. So all of the products that we would supply adhere to those global standards on manufacturing. And that's important. Wherever they come from in the world, whether they come from Asia, Europe, the US, the products are made according to globally recognised standards. And so obviously when panels are produced in bulk, maybe some of the features around the design, maybe some of the product warranties aren't as long as some of the premium products. You have one of the things that will vary is the output from the panel. That's the manufacturer's rated output, and that varies from around, say, 270 watts right up to some of the panels 355 watts, right up to 400 watts. And as the panels get bigger in physical size, they go beyond that. But in Estimator Express, we're offering 3 options on panels. We're offering a 270 panel, we're offering a 320 panel, and I think we're offering about a 350 to a 345 to 350 watt panel. Changes all the time. The next, you find in 3 months they've added an extra 5 watts to the system. What you find in some of those premium products is that some of the product warranties are extended from 10 to 12 years right out to 25 years. The other thing, sometimes the aesthetic, what the product looks like, and maybe some of the technology, how they respond in low light conditions, how they respond to maybe when the temperature is slightly cold, how they respond when the temperature is warm, which might sound weird for a solar panel. But essentially, you're getting those nice to have features. And for people who are very discerning, the people who might buy a particular hi-fi system at home rather than the one they can get from a high street retailer, they're the people that will ask the questions: is what's the technology, what's the buzz bar look on the front, what's the frame design, what's the backing sheet, all those sorts of things. And so people will have preferences, just like you might go for a particular manufacturer of car. Other people might say, actually, you've got longer warranties on other ones. So there are differences. We can talk people through what those options are. And if it looks like a mid-range panel is the one that's right for their system, then we'll recommend that. But there are differences, and panels can vary a lot in price. Now, in terms of doing the inverters, that's the bit that takes the direct current that comes from the solar panels and converts it into alternating current that can be connected into your house and then used by the homeowner. Those inverters can range from the more budget end, right up to a product like Solar Edge, which is using what's called DC power optimizers, and it allows the system output to be optimized and minimize the impact of things like shading and aging of the panels. And so have that conversation with us. There are differences. It may be that a mid-range system is absolutely perfect for you and will meet the expectations that you have.
Okay, and so the kind of brands then, you mentioned Solar Edge, but perhaps you could just kind of tell us a little bit about some of the brands that...
So some of the panels are big Chinese manufacturers like BYD and LONGi. They are globally recognized brands in polycrystalline and monocrystalline solar PV panels. They've been around for a long time. They're growing. They have excellent products. They generally have between 10 to 12 year product warranties. The premium brand that we've put into Estimator Express is LG. Other brands people may have heard of are SunPower. We can quote that if people are particularly interested in maybe SunPower being better than LG or the other way around. And so some of those brands, for example, LG, their product warranties are supported by the wider LG. People will have heard of LG. They will be the TVs. They will be all sorts of consumer electronics. And in an industry that has seen variations over the past 10 years for a range of different reasons, some of them related to the feed-in tariffs, those product warranties have been extended to 25 years. That's a commitment from the company that they will support those products, a bit like, for example, some washing machine manufacturers will support, repair and replace for the whole duration of the lifetime of that product, 20, 25 years. And some of those products, they do get those ultimate in different features, really pushing the technology, the efficiencies of those panels. And like a lot of things, people might want to say, oh, I've got LG panels on my roof rather than LONGi or BYD. It's for people to make that decision. We won't make that for them, but we can try and make a neutral assessment of the differences and the sort of the advantages and the cost differentials.
So just talking about warranties there and listening carefully, I think if I was running my building firm and I was installing solar panels or having them installed, I think a couple of things that would I'd want to get to the bottom of. I was going to say concerned with, but I want to get to the bottom of. So things like the product warranty and the installation warranty, because obviously I'm doing in my building company, I'm doing all sorts of projects over time, and I don't want to have to get called back to a project that I did 4 years ago and deal with that. Much like the queries that they would have about, say, PVCU installation, if they had someone coming in and doing that, or they'd install windows, they don't want to have to come back and have this kind of like hanging over them for like 20 years. So perhaps you could tell me about that.
Yeah, so we would, as an installation company, so one thing to bear in mind is that we do right from the design, so we're helping them in the design phase, the supply, the installation and commissioning. So we will be the people that will install that. With that installation comes a 12-month workmanship warranty, which is against poor workmanship or any issues that come up. on the whole, what we would say more generally is that we would try to support customers beyond that if they've got any issues with their product. Product warranties are automatically transferred to the user. They can range from 5-year warranties with some of the inverters that can be extended. They can be extended to 10 years for a relatively small amount. That can be done by the homeowner after the installation. They can upgrade their warranty, or we can sell it as part of a package. Those product warranties, the first port of call would be that the homeowner would call the manufacturer. They can call us and we can try to help them and expedite that. If they needed a product to be replaced, we would come and replace it, and we would then reclaim through the appropriate rebate process with that particular manufacturer. And indeed, yesterday I was actually doing that for a customer that wasn't even our customer in Bristol, who went to another firm whose staff had been furloughed. They came to us. We were able to point them in the right direction. We were able to support them. The homeowner was very grateful. They had a system from 2012, a good feed-in tariff rate, and they realised their system wasn't working with one of the products that we had put into your product range. It was now out of warranty, but we got in touch with the particular inverter manufacturer, gave us a replacement cost, and we can hopefully go and fit it in the next week.
Okay.
So, but we were able to respond within the same day. We can't always guarantee that, but if something comes in and people are keen to get their systems up and running,
so the builder is very much at arm's length from this then,
yeah,
going forward. So
I think they have the relationship, Joe, and I think that it's important that they may well want to pass it to us, but we will do our very best to resolve it. We're not going to say, oh, it's the builder's responsibility. Absolutely not. And I think we're happy to reassure builders that that their liability is the introduction.
Okay, a quick kind of fact check. Well, I guess it's not a fact check really, because the different products will have different I guess degradation. But how long is a solar panel system going to work at reasonably full capacity?
So panels over time, they have a natural process whereby they start to slightly degrade. Some of the premium panels have what's called an output warranty. That's 25 years, and at 25 years, some of those panels will have an output in excess of 90% of what they had on day one. Some of the more cost-effective panels, like the BYD and Longi, they're rated at sort of beyond 80%. So in year 25, they'll still have 80% of the output.
That's a really long. That's a really long time, isn't it? The longevity of these systems working pretty well is actually surprisingly long.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the product warranties for roofs, they can be in excess of 40 years. And so some of the conversations are around, what happens if the roof goes before the panels, all of those sorts of conversations. So I think a natural lifetime is 25 to 30 years. There will be the electrical components, such as the inverter, may need attention during that period of time. People may want to consider a system like the Solar Edge, where the standard 12-year warranty can be extended for a relatively small amount of money up to 25 years. So you could have a system that from day one, the product warranties were both 25 years for the panels and 25 years for the inverter. That gives you a degree of peace of mind, but of course you pay, like all product warranty extensions, a small premium to extend it up to 25 years. But certainly for something like Solar Edge, it's not prohibitive.
Yeah, okay. So kind of back to basics then, almost like a silly question, but perhaps just to talk about the kinds of projects that the building firm could be thinking about for installation of solar panels. So we mentioned that you have done some commercial work, but there's a big focus on residential as well. So
so I mean, we largely we've got a lot of experience of working with sort of multi-million-pound building contractors who are part of the supply chain into a main contractor, into the client. So we're used to that process of right from sort of early design stages, being able to do input into that. We have a lot of experience of working with major utilities companies to do residential installations back in 2018, 2019, which really gave us really a lot of experience of understanding how what clients are looking for, and working with utility companies. So we have, in my background very much, I have a physics background. I have a lot of experience within engineering, but also within residential solar PV before I came to Comera. A lot of experience in commercial PV at Comera. So I'm well placed to be able to sort of have those conversations with people, and I'd love to be able to put solar on my house, but it might need to be the next house because I've only got a flat right now. So.
Yeah. So the kind of project.
Energy efficient though, Joe. So that's the good thing.
Yes, the next dream project. So things like, I guess, all the basics. Obviously, we all see, you know, solar panels on new builds and stuff. But could you be thinking about them for things like loft conversions? Like if you're doing, say for example, you're doing a loft conversion, you're putting Velux windows in and what have you. Could you be solar at the same time, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, some of the companies that we've put into the system, we've put in a company which I forgot called Viridian. Viridian specialise in what's called in-roof solar. So they, the panels we've talked about to them at the moment, that traditionally would be mounted on top of the roof. So they'd be maybe a proud 150, 200 millimeters off the roof. And you can see those during retrofits, but also new builds. Sometimes what people want, if they want to pay a little bit more, is they want those to be just recessed into the roof line. So you've got that clean aesthetic. Imagine you've got a slate roof with all black panels, and really the look and feel of those panels is fantastic. They're very, very highly tested in terms of fire rating, thermal ratings. So they meet all of the new build housing developers regulations, so they're well tested and regulated, and they work also with Velux as a company. So they the flashings very much are designed to be easy to install, but also to fit like a glove, and so the end look and feel of them is as the homeowner would want. And so you may well have a Velux window followed by a panel, followed by another panel, and then a Velux window. And so the way it's been designed is such that we can work with the architect, we can work with the designers to make sure that they understand the dimensions of the panels, they understand the gaps that need to be left, and then the flashings are very much so that it's all integrated and the look and feel is high class. And a lot of these, you know, high-end developments, people are really looking for that final touch. They may have concerns about the look of traditional solar. They may not want maybe some of those silver framed panels. They may not want them to sit proud of the roof. Maybe they're concerned what their neighbours think. Nothing like an in-roof system to give you that sort of very high-end look.
Okay, all right. So following on from the kind of like the loft conversion question, I guess if you're doing roof renovations, if you've got to kind of strip a roof and redo, you could use, again, I guess you could use the solar panels that are slightly sunken. So is that Viridian, did you say? Yeah,
and I think it's worth having the conversation. If you're already taking the roof off, then some of the additional considerations of an in-roof system, which are if you're retrofitting, you have to take off a lot more tiles. If you've got slate tiles, there's quite a lot of installation work for the roofer to be able to put back. Sometimes where there's poor quality tiles, maybe they can save some of those existing tiles, but replace some of the areas of the roof with panels. We do things like, you know, roofing tiles. They are much more expensive, and what I'd always urge people, if they wanted for that integrated look, that they considered first in-roof systems like Viridian Solar, and it's worth having that conversation whether or not, if they're already taking the roof tiles off and they're refelting and batoning the roof, they may well want to arrange with us to do an in-roof system that actually the customer may not even have realised that that's available, and they'll be like, wow, that's definitely worth, that's definitely better than I was expecting. I was expecting maybe an aesthetic I didn't really like, but actually when they see it, they're like, actually that's really good. Yeah, it is really good.
And tell me, with things like extensions and what have you, you know, are extensions going to be an opportunity for putting solar panels on or not? I mean, there's presumably a question of kind of like the overshading of the existing property or neighbours' properties and stuff, but have you seen solar go on to extensions and what have you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think if you've got for example, like a kitchen extension with a decent area of roof, then, you know, you obviously that's an ideal thing to consider. As you rightly say, you've obviously got to consider the impact of the existing building, the neighbour's house, but there's no reason why a one-storey building, a bungalow, can't be considered outbuildings. In fact, the things to consider are what is the electrical run back to the house, to the consumer unit, and those sorts of distances will dictate whether or not there's any additional cost in terms of laying cables. But it's definitely worth considering, and you wouldn't just have to put them on a 2 or 3 storey building roof. So if you've got a building, if you in the garden, then that could well have an additional amount of panels that could see some benefit.
Okay, because I guess thinking about it, I've only ever really seen, like, my neighbours that they've got it's a farm, kind of a farmhouse, an old farmhouse, and they've got solar on the top. It's 2-storey, so I usually think about solar going on a 2-storey building where it's as opposed to, oh right, I've got a 1-storey extension where I've converted an outbuilding to an office. My husband is thinking about an office at the bottom of the garden, so he's further away from.
Well, one thing to consider, if it's got a separate electrical supply, it may well be that you need to have some conversations around how would the system be connected into the electrical supply. But I think those are the sorts of things that we benefit from the building contractors' understanding of the situation on the ground, because they're able to that's their bread and butter. They know these sorts of things. They can be able to report back to us, maybe a photo of the consumer unit. They can get that information to help us make the right recommendation. There's no point in us making a recommendation that's simply not going to work. So the fact that they've got that relationship, they've been on site, they see the look and feel, they can see the sort of, you can see if something is shaded. And I think that is invaluable for us. So we really encourage, we will really benefit from their customer knowledge and their on-site presence. They will benefit, obviously, from our expertise in solar and our ability to recommend things that may really delight the customer and move it to that, as you say, to that next level. So all sorts of roofs can be considered, different types of roof materials. If you have for example, you may well have a commercial building somewhere. You may well have a business where you haven't considered, like a metal roof. There's all sorts of fixings that can be able to put these systems. Generally, very small flat roofs at home are difficult to put solar on. But if you had a big office building that you owned, that would also be another thing that we have a lot of experience in. That's really our bread and butter.
Okay, so I guess one of the key takeaways I've got from this is that you can be in it right from the start with the building firm or the designer within the building company to really make sure that they get the system right. You do the design service to plan it. And you can reach out to the end client if needed to kind of discuss some of the finer points about their needs. I guess a point from my perspective, very much involved in the marketing here at HBXL, just thinking about, is there kind of literature and material that you can give to the building firm that you can send out to them, so that if they're having the conversation or PDFs of the systems and what have you, that they can email. I guess in this new world of working remotely and digitally, I guess it'll be all about the kind of the email and conference call. But
no, that's fine. I mean, I think there's we obviously will have a website which does give examples of systems that we've installed. We can put together the information relevant to the system that they're interested in talking to the customer and try and make that bespoke. So rather than sending out necessarily just we can certainly put marketing information that helps them initiate that conversation. What I'd recommend is a much more basic thing of just get in touch. Just have a conversation with us. We're always happy to be able to respond to emails. My work mobile, the landline is on my email signature. By all means, give me a call. I like talking about these systems. This is putting stuff that makes people delighted on their home is what gets you out of bed in the morning. You want to give people what they want. Let's have that conversation. Even if there's no silly question, it's just not asking the question that's silly. So I do really encourage people to get in touch, and you'll find that we're very enthusiastic, we're very keen, and hopefully we can work with you to be able to get a system that makes your customers thrilled with the system.
I can tell you're so enthusiastic about what you do, Richard. I love it. Kind of really, it's making me really interested in solar, just hearing you talking about it.
What you find is that homeowners really love this stuff, and I think that I think if you can meet it with a sort of qualified, educated amount of enthusiasm, then people really value that. And I think they'll value the builder. The builder brings a lot to this process. They bring the practical expertise of the rest of the build and how we can actually, there's nothing like getting a solar PV system with an extension and the customer's like, actually, it's a seamless process. I think that's what their nervousness of using different contractors. They would have a lot of project management responsibility. We will work with the building contractor to be able to make sure that we are on site when they need us on site, and we can deliver a system at the right time, and that the customer will essentially be getting our expertise through the building contract. And I think there's a lot of value in that for the customer.
So I know we've already touched on this, but just kind of reminding the viewers and listeners that that solar is going to be good for business as they move forward. And I just kind of going through a list in my mind. It's obviously differentiating themselves from other firms, other building firms. It's making them look different. As we've already touched on lots of times, we know homeowners are increasingly looking to improve their own green footprint. So this is going to help the builder meet that. I think homeowners are also making choices on who they use on all sorts of things, whether it's a building firm or their car choice or the electricity provider they use, or what have you. They're making a more kind of ethical choice on who they want to shop with or trade with. So I think from a builder's perspective, being able to say, look, and I do this as well. I
don't think that the ethical choice has to necessarily be a poor financial choice. I think that they're much more closely aligned than they were 10 years ago. I think there's every reason that people can make an informed, balanced choice about the system that they go for that is the right price and works with them over the next sort of 15, 20 years or more. And I think that, as you rightly say, people are making informed choices about what they invest in their house. And so I think things that meet their needs now, such as, the increased electricity consumption, they're very sensible, wise choices, especially if you're already engaged in the process of doing a building project. We would also consider a completely standalone PV system. It doesn't, in terms of, it doesn't have to be off the back of an existing building project. If a customer of a building contractor says, actually, do you know anyone that does solar? Then we're quite happy to work on that as well. It doesn't have to be just where they're doing an extension or re-roofing the building. It can be, I'm just interested in PV. I'm using a lot of electricity. Have you got anything that could help me? So we're very happy to be able to.
So, because I was going to add to that, but obviously the builder can be making a margin on this the system installation, so he can be putting his markup on the system, so that the client obviously won't see that, despite the dialogue with yourself.
We won't be giving any pricing to their customer. It's their customer. They're in the commercial relationship with that customer. We will be quoting the building contractor. We will be invoicing the building contractor. And so any contact we have with the client will be about technical support. Yeah. And so they have no fear that we will be giving what the price is or trying, and that's our preference. It's not that we would like to get direct to the customer. Our preference is working business to business, but ultimately we can support both pre-sales and post-sales in terms of the customer's expectations and answering questions that make sure that they understand what they're going for, and that increases the chance of them being pleased with what they get. What we don't want to do is promise the world and then have a system that they're not happy with. So any figures about output are all using regulated MCS guidelines about what the yield can be, and so they can have full confidence that the numbers that we're giving them will be achievable.
Okay, so no brainer there really, that the builder can offer this service at reasonable arm's length, make a very good margin on the system installation, and then and knowing safely that the warranty, both on installation and the product warranty, are delivered by you. So I guess at the handover process, or the completion, should I say, there's a formal process of assigning the warranty and what have you to the homeowner. Is that what's happening?
Yes, and during the commissioning process, they would have the documentation through an O&M manual, operations maintenance manual, so that they would understand what their system is, all the certification that's associated with that, the registering of their system with the MCS, which is the regulator for the industry, the microgeneration certification scheme. And so from that perspective, obviously the builder wants an ongoing relationship with their customer. They will have done works, and so there'll be a bit of to and fro, and they might say, can you give us the number for the solar PV people? They might have lost our particular bit of documentation. So what we want is an ongoing relationship with all of the building contractors, because we want to be able to advise both projects that have evolved, maybe early stage projects, as you rightly say, where people are not really sure what's happening. Maybe they've got an architect involved, the architect wants to talk to us, they work with some building contractors, all of that kind of stuff, where ultimately we can add something at all phases of the project, even if they've been let down by another PV company and they want us to step in and deliver a design. We would make sure we check the design, we would make sure it's deliverable, We would make sure that it adhered to all of the different regulations about spacings on the roof and how it's connected in before we delivered it. But so we can go right from the early concept phase right down to installing a system that's already been scoped out.
Okay. Well, I've just realised I've got so kind of into understanding more about solar that I kind of didn't ask right at the outset. Perhaps you could tell me a little bit more about kind of Comera Energy. Like how long have you guys been around? Where are you based?
Yeah, so we're based in Bristol. We've been around for about 10 years. We have obviously worked on a lot of commercial builds. We've worked with, as I say, large utility suppliers. We have a broader portfolio of companies within Comera Group. Some of which are, financial, accounting, health, medical training. So a sort of portfolio of sustainable businesses that, give ethical advice and help people live sustainable lives. And so those businesses are sort of have a synergy between them. And obviously Comera Energy has a background in doing solar PV installations. But if people have other interests within the renewable area, we can certainly either work with them or recommend other people that can assist during that installation as well. But I think solar PV is the area where in this particular sphere, we can add the most value and we can really get a system for HPXL's clients that it takes their offering to the next level. During a bit difficult business period, they can come out of it stronger with more tools in their armory.
Yeah, I do agree. Hence the interview today, because I really wanted to get to the bottom of it and explain to software users why this is a genuine opportunity. So you're based in Bristol, but you do installations.
Yeah. So we have teams that can work in London, in the north, in the south. I'm from Devon originally, but I actually come from a family of builders. So, I grew up living and breathing with, some of the complexities about how you, the difficult challenges that builders encounter. And so, I come from that sort of background. Obviously, I come from an engineering and science background, so I can understand that side of it. Hopefully we can offer the design service that people want, give them costed proposals that they need, and then obviously deliver an installation service that makes them happy. So.
Okay, so I guess just linking into kind of a little bit more about your Chimaera. For customers that don't have the Estimator Express solar bonus pack already, you can get that via the software. The software, if you've got Estimator Express 2020, will ask you about the solar bonus pack and whether you want to add it into your software, which you can. When you've done that, that then presents you with the ability to add in a solar panel system from one of a range of systems that are already priced up within the software. And you can then add your own margin onto that as the building company user. And as I explained before, it will then appear in the quotation that you produce, or as a kind of an extra sheet as a serving suggestion of you could have this system with your extension or barn conversion.
Tailored as well, Joe. So if they want 13 panels, not 14, if there's only space for 9 panels, not 8 panels, then what we say is that the outputs from the Estimator Express tool initiate that conversation. Come to me, have that conversation. If it looks like you need an adjustment to that commercial proposal or that technical proposal, that's what we can do. But we've tried to pick a mid-sized 8-panel system, but also a larger 14-panel system. But they're guidelines, and so they're not constraints. They're opportunities to have that conversation and to maybe be able to give the customer an indicative price that can start that conversation.
Okay, so I guess what next for the builder off the back of watching today? So number one, if they've got Estimator Express 2020 and they haven't got the solar panel bonus pack, they can add it to the software. If you haven't got Estimator Express 2020 and you want to, talk to the HPXL accounts team and they can talk to you about your options. And if you want to speak to Richard directly, so this is, as I said at the start, this is Richard Percival talking today. This is the sales and design engineer from Comera Energy. So we'll pop the contact details on at the end of this so that you've got his info. And if you don't get a chance to jot those down, you can talk to any of the HPXL team and they can put you in touch with Richard directly. So I know from all the passion that you've kind of shown today about solar PV, I'm sure you'd love to talk to the builder listeners. So whether you have the solar panel bonus pack or not, guys, you can talk to Richard about your solar requirements, and I know he's going to love talking to you. So please do. And as I say, contact details will pop up after this. So Richard, is there anything else that you think we should touch on before we sign off today?
No, I think it's been a good hour. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about solar during this period. We're fully up and running in terms of working from home. I'm able to support existing and new clients both on the telephone and by email. So now's a great opportunity to be able to get in touch. We're seeing a lot of interest from commercial customers. I'm sure that a lot of homeowners at home very, very keen to be able to talk about this. We're completely able to respond to your requests within 24, 48 hours and to be able to take those projects forward, so that when you are able to be back on site delivering those projects on the ground, you've already done the design and the costing for them and you're ready to go. Yeah,
as you say, a great time to actually explore it further. Well, when things are perhaps a little bit less hectic than usual. I know all our builders are juggling 1,000,001 things day in, day out. But yeah, maybe take 10 minutes and have a chat with Richard and find out more. Well, yeah. Richard, it's been lovely talking to you today. Really appreciate your time, and I guess we'll catch up hopefully soon, and you can tell me a little bit more about developments going on in the solar world and that of charging points and what have you.
So, thanks, Joe.
I'll take care. Thanks a lot, and thank you for listening.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.